So I realized recently that a good part of my preaching ability I actually developed in high school. I was on the debate team, which meant that I also competed in an event called extemporaneous speaking, or as we called it then, extemp. That's where I learned to prepare and deliver a talk without notes. But it was in debate that I learned something that helps make Paul's letters to the church in Corinth make sense. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. In a debate tournament, the point is to win by being the most persuasive. In my day, you'd have 4 preliminary debate rounds, followed by the top teams advancing to elimination rounds. Among other lessons I learned from that, though I didn't grasp it at the time, was that winning debaters can be really persuasive while talking utter nonsense, while losing debaters can have all the facts and all the truth on their side and still lose miserably just because they're not very persuasive. I mention my debate experience because it is similar to what Paul mocks in 1 Corinthians. Corinth would have been a place where people would have heard highly skilled debaters and orators on a regular basis. It was a very cosmopolitan city. It had been totally destroyed by the Romans in 146 BCE, then reestablished by the Romans in 44 BCE. By Paul's time, about 100 years later, it had grown into a strategically located port city not far from Athens. It was a place which would have attracted a wide variety of people, including people who engaged in public debate. Like contemporary high school debaters, people like this could get into a mindset where winning an argument was more important than being right. Debating would become kind of a competitive sport where truth is sometimes the biggest loser. Some of the Corinthians, and doubtless even some of the church, seemed to love nothing so much as a good public argument to see who could prove himself the most clever, the most intellectually nimble and dexterous. It was what Greeks referred to as wisdom. It might not even matter whether one truly believed in one's position, only so long as one could establish oneself as the best at winning arguments. This may be a good thing in some areas of life, such as law or politics, but as a matter of building a faith community, the love of debating proved a hindrance. Listen to this brief snippet from 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Paul writes, "For the message about the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God the world did not know God through wisdom, God decided through the foolishness of our proclamation to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs and Greeks desire wisdom, but we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those who are the called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength." Paul uses 3 terms here to draw a contrast between human knowledge and learning on the one hand and God's truth on the other. The terms he uses are usually translated as the wise, the scribe, and the debater. But I think a better term than the wise here would be the clever. That term gets to Paul's point that there are people who are smart, but who mistake intellect and learning for truth. In the hands of a skilled debater or orator of the day, the Christian faith would have been an easy target for ridicule because of its talk about a God who died. In the conventional wisdom of the Greek thought world, gods did not die, not unless they had been utterly and completely destroyed. The idea of believing that a man who died at the hands of Roman authorities could somehow not only be a god, but could also come back to life and offer salvation to humankind, well, it would have made no sense. This idea would have been an easy target in a debate. They would have thought it foolish. Please don't get me wrong here. Just because someone is smart and learned, skilled in rhetoric and argumentation, does not mean she or he is wrong. Learning and knowledge, as well as skilled rhetoric, can and should be put to good use for the kingdom. Paul's point is not to disparage these things, but to attack the sort of smug self-confidence of the skilled debater who would presume to argue against the truth of the gospel just because it defied conventional wisdom. But Paul's more subtle point here is to strengthen the faith of the rank and file members of the Christian community in Corinth, people who could probably never win a debate against a skilled orator. Just because a skilled orator can seemingly poke holes in the gospel, don't let their skill intimidate or dissuade. Keep the faith, for what the world often considers wise and powerful is foolish and weak in the kingdom. We actually have the perfect word for it in English that draws on the two Greek words Paul uses here, sophomoric, from sophos, meaning wise, and moros, meaning fool, and the word from which we get the English word moron. Hence, to be sophomoric is to be a wise fool, someone who possesses intellect but lacks the true wisdom to use it correctly. And that's what the debaters of the age were to Paul, sophomoric, wise fools. They could poke holes in the gospel's logic, but they had no real understanding of what it all meant. Tomorrow, Paul makes a virtue of his rhetorical weakness. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.